Your Excellencies, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, Ambassador to the Netherlands, Dr. Rongroot Rangsiopas, CEO of SCG, ladies and gentlemen. It's amazing to be back in Bangkok. We were just talking on the front row, would it be possible to get 1,000 people to join a session on the circular economy in America or anywhere in Europe? And the likely answer would, well, you would be hard-struck, and you would certainly be hard-struck to get a leader from government to come out and give such an insightful speech as the Deputy Prime Minister just did. So even though he said Thailand is slow to move on circular economy, much of what he said, it's about innovation, it's about creating a movement of the people, rings true. So in my talk this morning, what I'll do is set up what is actually a circular economy. What does it mean for business? Where are the opportunities, the risks we need to deal with? And what's the world in which we operate it in? And following myself, a good number of companies will join the stage and will give real-life examples of what is already happening today. And hopefully all of that will inspire you here in Thailand to accelerate forward. I said, let's talk about the world in which we operate, and that's a pretty complex place today. Wherever you go around the world, it's true that politics have become a circular economy in itself, but the unfortunate bit of it is the outcomes of politics these days are more and more uncertain, unpredictable. And if business dislikes one thing, it's unpredictability in politics and the issues we need to deal with. And the threat to globalization is a threat to many of our business leaders. The risk of trade conflicts now emerging, or even worse, armed conflicts around the world, are real. And this is just a reality we need to deal with, and business needs to find a way through. It's also true that sustainability has become a central stage topic. You cannot read almost any newspaper anymore without reading about climate change. We now know that climate is changing. The science behind it is robust and indisputable. And here in Thailand, you know, I know that 31% of your population works in agriculture. That will be one of the hardest hit sectors when it comes to climate change and its impact. The droughts that you've had to deal with, the floods that are going through the country is now everywhere. Weather events will become more and more intense and unpredictable again. It makes the business environment just hard to manage. And it's not just the environment that is under pressure. You know, if you look into society in general, the trust barometer that Edelman puts out each year during the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland has telling stories. Each year, trust globally in leaders is declining. It started probably with the decline in trust in the financial system back in 2008-09 after the financial crisis. Political leaders have suffered a lack of trust, but of recent, we business people have to be honest, also business is under scrutiny. Business leaders, CEOs in particular, are no longer trusted because in its core simplicity, the economic system is not seen to serve the many people anymore. Things like Brexit, things like unpredictable outcomes of elections everywhere are the result of the people no longer seeing the system, the economic system, and the leaders leading that to serve their interests. It's not all doom and gloom. Let's not go there. There's now massive progress being made in the world. In the end of 2015, the Paris Agreement was put in place. In the same year, the Sustainable Development Goals have been agreed. So let's talk a bit about it. The Paris Agreement probably got most famous when one country withdrew from it. But just think about what I just said. That means that all other countries in the world are part of that agreement. All other countries, with only one exception, are part of that agreement. But who of you has ever really thought about what does this Paris Agreement mean? I accept that there's not too many people who will have read all of the agreement, but you know the headlines, right? We, the world, have agreed that we don't want more than 2 degrees of warming of our planet. And actually, we have set ourselves a stretch target of 1.5 degrees of warming. So what does that mean? Well, let me tell you, 1.5 degrees of warming means that the world as a whole, all of us in this room, all people of Thailand, all people in all other countries in the world, can continue to do what we do in terms of emissions for another 12 years, and then we switch everything off. 0 emissions 12 years from now. If we want to stay below 2 degrees, we can continue to do, all of us, what we do today. Every factory, lamp, car, whatever emissions we produce, for 23 more years. That's how urgent this topic now is. If you know how big the energy system is, it will be next to impossible to switch everything off 12 years from now. It will be incredibly hard to do it 23 years from now. So the Sustainable Development Goals were put in place by the United Nations, and again agreed by all countries, to create an agenda for what we call the future we want. I admit the logo that is on the slide, on the right part of the slide, is a circle, but circular economy was not explicitly mentioned in the SDGs. The closest it probably got is SDG number 12, which talks about responsible production and responsible consumption. But actually, and that's one of the arguments I will make this morning, if we do not move to a circular economy, there is no hope of us delivering the SDGs. One could even argue there would be no hope to deliver the Paris Agreement. Speed of change is something that I would like to keep all of you to keep in mind. So many of you will remember a movie called The Inconvenient Truth. It was Vice President Al Gore who put it out in 2006, and basically, for the first time in a popularized version, told us that climate was changing and what immense impact that would have on society. It took the world 9 years to move from the Inconvenient Truth to the Paris Agreement. It took Statoil, the leading oil and gas company from Norway, another 3 years to change their name. So their name was Statoil, which basically means state oil, and today it's Equinor, which I guess nobody really knows what that means, but Equinor became their new name. So you asked the CEO, I got to ask the CEO, I said, wow, great name change. Why did you do that? And the reason he gave was very simple. We, Statoil, can no longer attract young, talented people to work for our company because the word oil is in our name. We had to remove ourselves from oil. Now let's talk plastics. It's about a year ago that David Attenborough put out the Blue Oceans documentary, which for the first time, just like The Inconvenient Truth to some extent, showed us the issue of climate change, showed the issue of plastics in oceans. It was only 6 weeks ago the Deputy Prime Minister mentioned it, that here on the shores of Thailand, the whale struggled to survive for 4 days and unfortunately then lost its life. Upon opening up the stomach of the whale, 8 kilos of plastic bags were found that the animal had swallowed and eventually led to it dying. A week after the whale, please don't think this is just a Thai issue. This whale and its suffering was on television around the world. A week after the whale died, the UN General Assembly had a meeting to forbid or tax plastics. And so what I'm saying is, plastics in particular, but resource use in general, will be a fast-moving terrain where companies, business leaders, need to be prepared to respond on timely. And leadership is completely changing for business. You know, it's only 10 years ago that if you had a philanthropy, a foundation, and you would support good causes in society, you would be a great company. It's about 10 years ago that CSR was invented, corporate social responsibility. You would give back to society, your employees would do voluntary work, and that would make you and your company a hero. Today, leadership is all about integrating sustainability into your core strategy. CSR and philanthropy are important, but unless the core strategy of your business is sustainable, you will not be a leader. And this, at this very moment, is changing too. Just having it in your strategy is not good enough. It needs to be integrated into your corporate governance. The fiduciary duty of a board of a company will be to not only manage the financials of a company, but to integrate the environmental and the social aspects of it. And there are good business cases for it. You know, it's now a year ago that the Better Business, Better World report came out. 40 global CEOs working together to look at how do we implement the SDGs and what is the business case for doing so. And the business case is incredibly clear. If SDGs are being implemented, the world will create $12 trillion of incremental value. 380 million new jobs will be created as we move towards delivering of those SDGs. So the case is clear. And if you don't like high-level statements, please go to the Better Business, betterworld.org website, and what you will find are 60 business cases, spreadsheets, financial models, and all included, that will demonstrate to you the enormous opportunities that are out there. And I appreciate that if you're, well, probably anywhere from row 5 in this room, the font will be too small for you to read. But if you look under the column Energy and Materials, almost all of those business opportunities are related to circular economy. So what I'm saying is business has a massive opportunity to lead the transformation that the world needs. In that word, transformation, is, however, where the challenge lies, because we believe that the world will go through 5 massive transformations. And they are that, and they are uncomfortable. Most business leaders in the room have become successful by incremental improvement of their business. Each year, a little bit of productivity, a little bit of pricing power, a bit smartness in the handling of the costs, and your P&L, cash flow, and therefore share price will do better. We are now entering a decade of massive system transformation. And here are the 5 systems. The cities and mobilities will change, the way we build, the materials we use. Energy and resource use, i.e. circular economy, will change. Food will have to be produced in a different way. People, particularly the future of jobs, will become a massive topic. And at the heart of it all, the valuation or the economic incentives will transform as well. And that's not just because sustainability is coming to town. Technology will, in most cases, be the driver of change. My argument is that sustainability will shape that change. It's not just about the environment. It's as much about the people, the society, the social impacts of what we do. We will have to deal with massive challenges. You know, science is telling us pretty clearly, go back to the climate change example, what we can or should do. The cash flow statement of your company today will give you a different read. But the biggest really call today to all of you is we need to learn to collaborate. Business has built great success being competitors. And that's a good model, and it will always be part of that. But some of our challenges are now so big that unless we collaborate, we will not make it. So what can you and your business do? I think the Deputy Prime Minister was completely right when he said that all of this is about innovation. And it's true. Innovation will be a major driver, whether it's implementing new technologies, new business models. We need to come up with new answers and new ways of doing it. The second thing, though, to consider is, what does it do to your valuation? We are going to move to a world where more sustainable businesses will have lower cost of capital. And for the quantoids in the room, there are now plenty of examples. Olam in Singapore has generated a $500 million financing deal where the interest the company pays will be lower if they meet certain environmental and social targets. $2 billion in Danone, $1.2 billion in Philips with similar constructs. But the third, and I repeat again, most important notion is we need to move to a collaborative space. So let me talk about the circular economy. This is by no means a new topic. I think the Ellen MacArthur Foundation popularized the word circular economy, and they exist since about 2012. But even that wasn't the beginning of the journey. The Club of Rome, in many ways, the starting point for the whole sustainability movement, came out with a report, I think it was 1972, which said the limits to growth, which basically said we, given population and economic development growth, are using more resources than our planet can support. And this was 1972. If you look at circular economy, you will quickly note that this is not just about SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. You know, 8 of the key materials that we all use, they're here: steel, aluminum, plastic, glass, wood, primary crops, and livestock, cattle, are collectively responsible for 20% of the world's greenhouse gases, 95% of all the water we use, and 88% of the land we consume. So if we can make the use of these materials more responsible, i.e. more circular, we will fix many more things than just SDG 12. For those of you who have never thought about circular economy, the name may be requiring some explanation. And I want to compliment SEG. I mean, the logo that is turning behind me on the screen is amazingly well worked out. Make, use, return. I mean, that's pretty simple to understand. So the circular economy is opposite to a thing that is called the linear economy, which is basically the economy that most of us operate in, day out. We take, meaning we extract, we mine, we make, and then we dispose or waste. So take, make, waste. Well then, make, use, return, that's the circular economy. Because the return means it comes back, you turn it into something new, which then people can use again. Again, Ellen MacArthur and other people have made brilliant drawings on what the circular economy really is all about. It is really, at its core, at its most simple, the purpose is to retain the value of the resources we use, to decouple your company or your country's growth from the use of natural resources. In even simpler terms, we business people often believe that we need more virgin material to make more profit. That's a notion we need to leave behind. It is not possible for all of us to constantly use new virgin raw materials to grow our businesses. And the answers are twofold. You can see them here on this rather complex slide, I know, but there's two types of materials we use: the biological materials or the technical materials. Waste from biological materials should become compost, should grow new crops. Waste from technical materials should be delayed by proper maintenance, by using repair, by refurbishing, or eventually be recycled. And that's where the make, but then return, and eventually recycle in whatever shape comes down. So any business person and anyone who has ever been to an MBA will know that business is all about risks and opportunities. So there's many new principles in a circular economy. It's about durability, it's upgrades, refurbishment, reuse, repair. There's a lot of reduced material use in there. That's the principles. But what are the risks? Well, one is higher commodity prices, which is horrible if you have a supply chain depending on commodities. Because as we overconsume the commodities, the prices will go up. Waste will become an issue. Plastic is the point in case. The environmental impact, the Earth's overshoot, and just the fact of predictability of resources, and as a result of it, of regulation to manage them. So these are on the risk side. The opportunity side, though, is equally amazing. Why is climate change and climate action now so taking off? Because the cost of renewable energy has dropped below that of the cost of fossil fuel-based energies. The same will happen here. The more circular you make your model, the more you will be able to reduce your operating cost and therefore improve your competitiveness and change the way your relationship with your consumers is. The film, right at the start of this morning, already predicted that by 2050, the world will use 140 billion tons of extracted materials. Just to put that into context, that is 400%, i.e. 4 times as much as planet Earth can produce. Some of you who are in the sustainability movement will have heard of Earth's Overshoot Day. So this year, Earth Overshoot Day is round about now, a few more weeks, I think, end of July this year. So at the end of July, we, all the people of the world, will have used more resources than our planet can regenerate in 1 year. If we grow our population, increase our demand, go to 4 times what the planet can produce, it is not a miracle to understand that this cannot continue and is unsustainable. And hence the attention and the resources that are being put into circular economy. Like I said, in no ways a new concept, but there is a fast-growing library of materials available to all of you. If you go to WBCSD.org, the Circular Economy tab, you will find all these reports, and all of them will help you. The role that WBCSD has, the World Business Council has, is to bring together leading companies, and we're very proud that SCG is one of those that is helping us lead this effort. Because it is about collaboration. It is about developing joint sense of business leadership, and it is really about connecting the entire value chain. Here in Thailand and in many other countries in the world, SCG is an immensely powerful company, but SCG alone cannot make the Thai economy circular. and neither can any of the other companies. I know there's quite a few business people in the audience today, and business people always want to have tangible examples. Yep, great stories, beautiful PowerPoints. What do you want me to do? Well, there are 5 business models that you should explore. Let's take them one by one. Think about your product and what you can do to extend the life of it. Can you resell it? Can you repair it? Can you remanufacture it? Think of your services and see, do I really need to sell products into ownership, or can we create sharing platforms? Car sharing has become quite popular in parts of the world. What can we do, is the third example, about resource recovery, the whole area of waste collection, recovering of materials, the resources and the energy used to produce. Can we sell products as a service, is a fourth category. There's a very famous example of a light company that stopped selling light bulbs and is now leasing light in an office because the users never really wanted to buy light bulbs, they just wanted light on their desks. And then, of course, the fifth and last category is what can you do in the circularity of your own supplies? Renewable energy, recyclable inputs. Can you replace the toxic? Can you avoid single-use type of projects? So the WBCSD brings all these companies together in what we call Factor 10. A vision is formed, companies are informed or made aware, we bring companies together to collaborate, and we work on a number of big issues. And they are all important. What can we do to create circular metrics? Most of you who are in business will by now produce sustainability reports which talk about the amount of emissions that the company produces in its operations. How advanced are you actually in measure how circular your operations are? And if you are, what metrics are you using, and are they the same as your neighbors? There's a lot of work we need to do there. We need to do work on understanding what circularity means for certain sectors. In our case, we've started with the automotive sector and the built environment sector. We need to do work on policy and engagement. And last but not least, we need to do work on plastics. Plastics is becoming a massive topic, as already demonstrated with the story of the whale. 90% of the plastics that go into the economy are being lost to the economy. Only 30% or more than 30% escapes the waste collection. Much of that ends up somehow in the oceans. That washes up onto the shores and you get photos like the ones behind me. And there are many potential answers that you now hear as this crisis evolves. We should ban plastic. We should burn it. We should clean up the ocean. We should move to a circular mindset. And we believe that is eventually the best answer because plastic is indispensable in our society. It brings great advantages which no other material can replicate. But if we are honest to ourselves, we must have much better answers on the after-use, after-life processing of that plastic. So at this very moment, the Global Plastic Initiative is being initiated. It will be announced in a few months, but again, an initiative that will bring many leading companies together to take real action on the ground. And at the end of the day, that's what business is all about, what WBCSD will help businesses in to become the epicenter of business action towards circular economy, to resolve the crisis in plastic. We'll look at some amazing examples later this morning of companies who have started the journey of circular economy and have all implemented very different solutions. Here's a few more. Renault does a lot of work in the design phase already of its product to make them recyclable. Philips in their medical services, selling their machines as a service, no longer as an asset that goes to the balance sheet of a hospital. DSM, a Dutch company, has looked at carpets. 4 billion pounds of carpet go to landfill each year. It's one of the hardest products to recycle. They have come up with solutions for it. And Stora Enso, very different type of business, already uses 26% of the input into producing paper of recycled paper, and they have 3 mills where that number has already gone to 100%. But also here in Asia, some great examples are emerging. Shared card system in Singapore, a joint food waste clearing in the fresh vegetable tree dots. GGS in Malaysia turned itself from an oil palm trader to an oil palm biomass solution provider. And the BYO, bring your own, this speaks to my wife actually, is we should not use plastic packaging, single-use plastic packaging, that is when we go to the supermarket. Bring your own is trying to bring answers to that. So there's lots of inspiring examples out there. The one thing I would like you to remember is circular economy is much, much more than just recycling. It starts at the design of the product. It really starts with the question, what is the use of my product? How can I design it to use the resources better and longer? What can I do with the product, and how can I keep it fit for purpose during its life? And once it gets to be disposed, how can I get it back and use as much of the resources as we can again? So for you in this room, and some of you I respect may be listening to a story about circular economy for the first time, what are the type of things you can do? Where can you play? Well, I've said it enough. You have to learn to collaborate. There's not one company who can fix this problem alone. You have to choose your circular model. I gave you 5 business models. Hold that against your current business model and see. You have to want to track progress. Transparency is going to be all around us, The technology and big data is now such that almost any raw material can be traced back to its origins. You have to set a clear circular vision. And it starts with the CEO, and again, thanks so much for hosting us here this year. You have to, like the Prime Minister said, the Deputy Prime Minister said, start small and only then think scale. And you have to believe that sustainability will be crucial for the future success of your business. I'm going to be very clear with you. Your company cannot attract talents if it's not sustainable or circular. Your consumers will know and want to know what your product is made of. It will create massive opportunities, and if not, will attract massive regulation. So this is all a question about leadership. My Thai colleagues yesterday evening over dinner and the Deputy Prime Minister this morning were very humble, saying that Thailand is only at the start of the journey when it comes to circular economy. And yet, I believe that you are all leaders. And this is a conversation about leadership. However, I am not a native English speaker, as you can tell by what I do to that beautiful language. However, when you're not native, occasionally you go back and you say, well, what does this word actually mean, leadership? So I looked it up. Leadership in the English language means path finder. And that's what all of you are. Nobody knows what or how or precisely where the answers to circular economy lie, but you are going to find the path. I wish you well. Thank you.